XJ Analyzer integration gives you the ability to control and monitor individual pins of a JTAG device from inside your own test code without the need for XJ Developer or a detailed board setup. You can use it for things like manipulating one of your board's control lines during a functional test and receiving a notification if a monitored pin changes state. In this short video, I'm going to show you how to use XJ Analyzer integration in a .NET programming environment. I'll use some C# examples for that, but the principles apply to other .NET languages too. If you're a National Instruments user, you might like to know that there are some equivalent videos in this series for LabVIEW and TestStand. As always, you need to initialize an XJ link to establish communication before you can get going. You do it with this getXJLink command. You either pass in an unsigned integer for a specific controller's serial number, or you pass in nothing and leave the software to use the first XJ link it finds that isn't being used. There's now a short sequence to follow. Along with initializing your XJ link, you need to load the project that describes your board. Once those have been done, you can create a ChainRunner instance to gain access to the methods that allow you to interact with the device's pins. Let's look at those steps in detail. When opening a project, you need to supply the path to a project file. If you're using XJ Analyzer by itself, you can use the XJD project file saved from there. On the other hand, if an XJ Developer project has been created for your board, you can use its project file, or alternatively, export an XJPAC file and use that instead. The XJPAC file would be best because you then know you're working with something that isn't going to change unexpectedly if someone updates the project without realizing you're using it. To load the project that describes your board, create an Analyzer project instance and pass the path of that project file into the constructor. You now need to create an object of the ChainRunner class. So call analyzerproject.getChainRunner and pass in details of the XJ link you initialized. And now you can read individual pins and write to them. For instance, let's declare the variables chain, pins and devices like this using ChainRunner and its chain property. You can obtain a reference to a particular pin by using the getPinByNumber method and passing in the JTAG device's circuit reference and relevant pin number. In this example, the project I've loaded came from XJ Developer. The system therefore knows the circuit's reference designators, and so I can enter strings for pin A1 of IC1 and pin 3 of IC5. If I was working instead from an XJD file created by XJ Analyzer, the software wouldn't have the circuit data and would have assigned references JTAG1, JTAG2, etc. to my devices. In that case, I would have needed to use JTAG1 instead of IC1 and JTAG2 instead of IC5. With those variables set, you can then use the method setOutput to write to a pin and the readValue property to read from one. Once you've finished all your work on that particular board, don't forget to dispose the ChainRunner instance so that the next board can start with a new one. That'll ensure everything gets initialized into default states. Then, when you've finished all the testing that uses that particular project, you can dispose the Analyzer project instance, and finally, dispose the XJLink instance. Only use XJTAG system.close right at the end once you've finished with all the equipment. That will do some final cleanup to ensure all the threads that XJTAG created are stopped. I hope what I've shown you so far has given you a good introduction to integrating XJ Analyzer into your .NET applications. To help you further, the default XJTAG installation includes several C# examples that you're free to copy and modify for use in your own code. You'll find them all in the xjintegration.net examples folder, which is normally in the XJTAG directory that's in your public documents folder. There's also extensive documentation in the XJTAG help system. Go to the XJ Integration section where you'll find the deployment entry that describes the steps that must be performed when using XJ Analyzer integration in a .NET project. Then there's the API reference section. xjtag.integration namespace describes the classes that are common to both integrations, and xjtag.integration.xjanalyzer namespace describes those that are unique to XJ Analyzer integration. In the next 3 videos in this series, I'll be moving away from C# to look instead at how to use XJ integration in National Instruments LabVIEW, again with plenty of examples. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please subscribe for more and leave a like or a comment below.